Interesting. Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest transfer news where you get all the latest Manchester United transfer news with that real fan opinion. Not Transfer Daily anymore, but we'll certainly be doing a weekly update as we approach May and the transfer window. And as you can see, Sancho, Werner and Maddison below. Very good reason for that. This time of year you start to get a lot of noise coming out of the club in relation to what their summer targets may be. And there is a feeling that those three players are headline targets for Manchester United. But look, what I would say about that is every club has headline targets going into the summer. Doesn't mean we're going to get them. I would say 2 out of those 3. I wouldn't be surprised if we get none of them. I think 2. If we got 1 of them, I'd be very happy. I doubt we'll get any more than 1. But look, I think with Manchester United, the first thing I would say, we've got some interesting transfer news sort of carrying over from January, the sort of fallout from there in relation to some of the targets we had. Some of them very unhappy. Some of them said they never were going to come anyway. So we'll talk about that. But I think with Manchester United's transfer window in the summer, there's 2 things that could happen. 1, Bruno Fernandes could be the start of a real big outlay in the summer, no matter who the manager is, whether it's Poch, Solskjaer or anybody else. Or 2, it could be we've used some of the money from the summer to get Bruno in because things were bad, people were chanting, people were getting fed up, so they've sod it. Let's find a bit of money to spend now and we just won't spend it in the summer. A little bit like if you've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend and, it's their birthday and, your relationship, they're thinking about dumping you, so you go and buy them, a weekend away to New York and you lavish them with nice presents and fine dinners and everything like that, and they think, wow, I'll stay with you till Christmas, because I wonder, if I'm getting that for my birthday, I wonder what I'm going to get for Christmas. And then for Christmas, you've spent all your money on their birthday, so you just buy them a calendar with pictures of what you did in New York, and they leave you anyway because they're like, well, you've absolutely mugged me off to keep me, haven't you, with the birthday present? You've got nothing left for the Christmas. And I think that could be a situation with United where we get Bruno Fernandes in January. Some fans start to think, well, this is the start of something. Imagine what we're going to do in the summer. And in the summer, you just get videos of Bruno Fernandes on holiday released by the club saying, oh, he's training for next season. So, look, I don't know. And I don't really trust this club when it comes to transfers. And I hope that they prove me wrong. But they've got to spend big in the summer. And if we want to improve, then we need to be looking at these three players, which we'll talk about. Let me just start off with it. I want to talk about some recent news. But let me just start off with one of these players below. So, look, I think if you were to say to me, from what we're hearing, from what people are saying, and from what my own personal opinion is, what one player do I think Manchester United wants in the summer? I do think it is Jadon Sancho. I think there's enough noise around it. I think he would be perfect for United. He ticks every single box of what the club want. They want a young player who wants to go to the next level, who is going to become a superstar at Manchester United. And, Bruno Fernandes does sort of fit that bill. All right, he's a little bit older at 25, but you look at people like Wan-Bissaka, Dan James, we've got people like Marcus Rashford who've come through the youth setup. Jadon Sancho is exactly what United want to do. I've put him down at £100 million. He's a fantastic talent. I think he'd love to come to the Premier League. The problem is, how do Manchester United do this deal if they haven't got Champions League football? I don't see us getting this player, and I think that Liverpool would quite like Jadon Sancho, and Liverpool have got good links with Dortmund, and Liverpool are the best team in the world at the moment, and Liverpool can afford that money. So I think United fans have got to be very careful with the Jadon Sancho hype. He's a very good player. I'm not going to change that mind if he goes to Liverpool. I said it about Fabinho. I wanted him to come to United. He went to Liverpool and I still said he was a good player. You can't just say he's a crap player because he goes to Liverpool and doesn't come to us. But I think we've got to be very careful with a player like Jadon Sancho, because I think it's very difficult for us to do. At this moment, I think our best chance of Champions League football is the Europa League. If we get Champions League football, we've got a fighter's chance of getting Sancho, because we can spend money if we need to, if we've got it. But I just think we're going to end up disappointed in relation to Sancho. I can't see that deal happening. As much as I think the club would have him as a number one priority, and I believe he is, from what we're hearing, I just think it's a very hard deal to do. And if they did pull it off, I'd be very, very impressed with the club. And that's one way they can start to rebuild the trust with the fan base. If they can get Jadon Sancho to Manchester United, I think that would be more impressive than Pogba. Because Pogba was a status signing that, yeah, it made sense, but Jadon Sancho would really be a signing about what we're trying to do as a football club and a vision. So we'll see what happens with that one. I want to talk about Werner, I want to talk about Maddison as well, and Grealish, but just a little bit of things that were hanging over from the transfer window. I mean, what I want to ask you is, I think Manchester United no more than 3 signings in the summer. I think 3 signings top. The Euros, how slow we are at deals, players that have got to go out the door. I mean, Pogba's probably going to leave in the summer, isn't he? Imagine how long we're going to take to do that deal. And yet again, we were proved in January, as we were proved in the summer, this club appears to struggle to do more than one deal at a time. We're no good at multitasking, whether it's a month on Wan-Bissaka, then a month on Harry Maguire. We are slow at doing deals. So, and Fernandes, all January, last day, scraping around for a lone striker in Ighalo. So, Pogba deal could take up a lot of our time. Euros as well, going on tour, starts the season in August. There's not going to be a lot of time for United. If Solskjaer is the manager, he wants the business done early. Of course, that's the downside of getting a new manager in, because if a new manager comes in, they've got to review the squad again, see what they need. I mean, the best case scenario, although I think it's far-fetched, is that Ollie turns this around, we start playing well, we get Champions League football, and we get business done early. Very far-fetched, but that would be our ideal scenario. But I think we're only going to get 3 signings done. So what I want you to do in the comments below is say which 3 players you would go for. That realistically, you can't say bloody Messi or something like that. 3 players that you think are realistic for Manchester United this summer. And I think you're going to have about 200 million to spend, because with Pogba's money and maybe about 50 million from the club, that's about 200 million pounds, isn't it? So get in the comments in the 3. For me, the CDM is the most important position. And I don't see United going for a CDM. I think we're going to get an attacking midfielder to replace Pogba, a right winger, which we need, and a striker. I think they'll be the 3 players we go for, which I haven't got a problem with, because we do need those players. But it still frustrates me that we can't. I think we need a centre defensive midfielder more than anything. This was my priority last summer. It's still my priority now. When you sign Bruno Fernandes, but you have to play him as a deep lying midfielder because you've got no one who can do the job with Fred, that's a problem. Matic is coming towards the end of his career, whether he can do a job or not. He is. He has played well recently, but he was playing terribly before. He's getting old. The Premier League's getting quick. Matic is a short-term solution. Next season, you've got Fred, McTominay, and who else? We need to buy a CDM, and I think we also need the right sort of CDM. You need a Fernandinho or a Fabinho or a Kante, someone like that, and we haven't really got that sort of player. So for me, CDM is massively important, but I don't necessarily think we'll go and get one. I don't think we're looking at that. So I'd be interested to see what you're saying in the comments about your 3. But as I said, some little bit of stuff hanging over from the January transfer window. I was reading this morning, actually, that Samari, Babakari Samari of Lille, who was linked to us, who is a CDM, he's very young, I think he's about 21, tipped to be a very, very good player of the future. This is the sort of player we should be bringing in. He turned down a move to Newcastle that was accepted by his club. There's talk that he turned it down because he wants to move to a better club in the summer, and this could be an opportunity for Manchester United. Now, considering Lille turned down a deal of £35 million, this is a deal that Manchester United should be all over. So I would hope that maybe we could look at that deal, because it could be a very quick deal to do, considering Lille have already exposed themselves as accepting 35 million for Newcastle. So I hope there is a central defensive midfield option that I hope that we can pursue in the summer. Cavani's agent has basically come out. Obviously, he was linked to Manchester United. He said that if it was all about the money, he could have gone to England, but he was never going to go to England. He wanted to go to Atletico Madrid, and a deal couldn't be sorted out. So Cavani looking like he was never an option to come to England anyway. And I would imagine Chelsea would have been part of that conversation as well. But it doesn't look like Cavani wanted to come to England. And Josh King, remember Josh King on the morning of the last day of the transfer window? It looked like we might go in for a second bid. Apparently the reports are that Josh King is devastated that we didn't go back in with a second bid. I'd say some United fans might have been devastated if we did. I mean, it's sad. It's the real side of football, isn't it? There's no doubt in that Josh King, having played here as a youngster, would have loved to have come back to the club. But there's loads of players that would like to come back to the club. We can't be sympathetic United. We've got to be Manchester United. And, I do feel on a human level for Josh King, because it would have probably been a dream to come back to United. And he'd see someone like Ighalo coming to us and thinks, well, that could have been me on a permanent move. So he's probably a little bit disillusioned. I get that. But I think from United's point of view, we need to be looking at a better than a Josh King. Which brings me on to the next player, Timo Werner. Now, Werner, again, I think like Sancho, I'd be very surprised if we could get Timo Werner to Manchester United. I think most German players tend to go to Bayern Munich, so that would be my first guess, is where he'll go. My second guess would be, we're not the only one who wants a striker. And I think that Chelsea are very efficient in the transfer market. And I did say this in the January transfer market. I think if anybody else had been in for Bruno, we probably wouldn't have got him, because we take so long and we stutter about the price. We think we know what the value of a player is. Well, some clubs will just come in and go, bang, we'll pay that money and we'll get that player. And I think with Werner, United's negotiating, and probably the same with Sancho as well. How long we take to negotiate, I think other clubs will come in and just go like that. And it could be Liverpool with Sancho, it could be Chelsea with Werner. So again, these three players would be progress. They would that would. I mean, look, there's no CDM below me out of those three. I think we need one, but if we got those three players in below and Pogba went, I think I'd be pretty excited. Although we would need a CDM at some point. So yeah, I think Werner's as hard to get as Sancho in many ways. Maddison's interesting, and I would bring Grealish into this. Maddison is interesting because they're all Sancho will be 20 in the summer. Werner will be 24 in the summer. Maddison is 23. I don't think he's 24 till November. So all the right sort of age for United, by the way. But with Maddison, I think Maddison's a player that a lot of United fans think we're going to sign. I'm not so sure on Maddison because we paid £80 million for Harry Maguire. And do you really think we're going to go back to Leicester a summer later when Maddison's had a brilliant season and we're going to go, there's 80 million? They'll go, nah. I've put 90. They might want more. And Maddison, to me, we overpaid on Harry Maguire. We know that, and I sort of understood why. We were desperate. But with Maddison, I could see Pogba going for 120 and us getting Maddison for like 100 or something stupid like that. And I think Maddison, therefore, for United, becomes quite a difficult deal to do. And I think Maddison might be a deal that we, as a football club, move away from because of the price that Leicester will want for him. Don't hold me to that because I pretty much know that Maddison wants to come to United and United want Maddison. But I think the fee here could be a problem. And when you look at someone like Jack Grealish, who is a year older, has had much the same season in a worse team, is a little bit more gritty, a little bit more of a fighter, he might be a better fit for Manchester United. Now, I prefer Maddison over Grealish, but if you could get Grealish for 50 million... I don't think there's a 40 million gap between Grealish and Maddison, if you know what I mean. So United might look at a Grealish over a Maddison, even though Maddison's a slightly better player, because of the price and then where they need to use money. And I wouldn't be opposed to that. I bring that up because I want to know what you lot think. If you're offered Maddison for 90 and Grealish for 50, what do? I prefer Maddison, but I'd go Grealish because I think that 40 million we're going to save can be used on other players that we need, but also I don't think there's a 40 million gap between Grealish and Maddison. In some ways, you could put Grealish in a United shirt and he might do better than Maddison does because Grealish, as I say, he's used to the Championship, but he's also used to playing in a relegation threatened Premier League side and still getting goals and assists, which is a little bit more impressive than what Maddison does. And he does have a bit more physicality to him. So I think that might be more of a viable option for Manchester United in the summer. But much depends, as I say, going back to the start of the video, how much money have we got to spend in the summer? Because if Sancho's 100 million and Werner's 55 and Maddison's 90, that's 250 million that we haven't got. So that's what I mean. If you get Grealish, that's 200 million, isn't it, for those three players? As I said, I'd be very surprised if we're going to get those three players. But I do think that they would be on United's list. High priority. But whether United can get those players, we'll have to wait and see. So get in the comments. Tell me what three players you think United should go for in the summer. I think it will be three players. Get in the comments. Do you think we can get any more than three? Do you think we can actually get three? I think the Euros, the Tour, selling Paul Pogba. It's going to be another slow summer. And it's all sort of going to massively depend on how much money we've got to spend. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new. And we're back at 8 o'clock tonight live for a call-in as well. Thank you for watching. And as I say, get your three players in below. I was choking there.